Hi everybody, my name is Rebecca and I'm a piano major here at Western. I started learning piano when I was about 5 years old, and I started mostly because my older brother was taking lessons and anything he did I wanted to do too because I thought he was so cool. And around 10 years old I started to get good enough to help the other kids in my group lesson with their theory books, which I thought was so much fun at the time. And that's also around the time that music started to become my thing. Like maybe you have seen this video at some point.
Nobody's good at everything. Everybody's good at something. What's your thing?
The school I went to for grades 7 and 8 had a band program, and I was so excited about it. I learned the clarinet and saxophone, and I joined band and had the best time of my little middle school life. Me and my band friends would go play around in the music room practically every lunchtime, terrorize the poor music teacher, and I thought we were the coolest kids ever because we could play the Pirates of the Caribbean theme. Middle school is where music really started to cement itself into my identity. Then high school rolled around, full of new friends to make and new ensembles to join. I was part of everything I could possibly be part of, my main limitation being that I can't play a string instrument. I was in junior wind, senior wind, choir, jazz band, pit band, music council, and took advantage of every performance opportunity. I also started teaching piano when I was around 16. I started to gain a bit of a reputation as the person to go to if you needed something music related, and I was really proud of that. I was the music kid, music council president, resident accompanist, saxophone player extraordinaire. So when the time came for me to choose what to do for university, it was kind of obvious what I was going to do. The following September, I walked into the arts building of York University, all bright-eyed and excited. And then I left it 2 years later, thinking that maybe a career in music wasn't for me. Now, how did that happen? Here's what I think. Being a musician was the main part of my identity. I was good at music, it was what made me special and identified me among my friends. And then I got to York, and everyone was good at music. So you start to think, if they're good at music, and I'm good at music, what makes me special? Who am I? And what am I doing here? Obviously, this isn't the kind of thinking that's going to lead you to academic success. So I dropped out of school and got a job at a bakery. For the first time in a really long time, music was no longer my primary focus. And for the first year, it was super refreshing. I was still teaching piano and tutoring, but I kept musical engagement to a bare minimum. I started to figure out who I was outside of music. The second year I thought, okay, I kind of miss it. And I enrolled in an RCM course about teaching elementary level piano, and I took part in a choral performance. And every time I did something music related, it gave me a little spark of happiness, just enough for me to start thinking, maybe I really do like this. The third year, I fully jumped back into it. I joined a choir, I really focused on my teaching, and I took time off from work to start working on audition pieces, which is how I ended up here. Music is still a big part of my identity, but time away from it helped me figure out who I am and has allowed me to come back stronger and more focused. So instead of me relying on music to tell me who I am, it's now something I know that I can come back to at the end of the day.